is preparing. And I think we are on live soon. Welcome. Welcome, everyone. My name is Reverend Mary Huber, pastor of CCWH, which stands for the Community Chapel of Holistic Healing. We are a non-denominational, nonprofit spiritual fellowship founded in 1977 by Reverend Michelle Luson, a mystic and channel for the multidimensional consciousness, which we carry here in this organization because she set our organization up. Because of her status as being a mystic, she had an apparition from Swami Sivananda early on, where he asked her to start this organization and place it in the DC area so that we could be a light for the nation's capital. So we continue our work here by having chapel services twice a month. We have classes periodically. We offer spiritual healing. And of course, now the spiritual healing is in the form of distance healing because of COVID. We are only meeting online because of that, like everyone else actually is. So if you would mute your phones now, or microphones, I should say. And before we start, we always begin with the recitation of the, we call them three healers, the affirmations of faith, hope, and charity, which Michelle channeled in many years ago in the very beginning of the organization. And these are meant to balance all of our energy systems, body, mind, and spirit. So we'll begin with the faith affirmation, and you might want to say it out loud for your own benefit to balance your energies. I believe in the spiritual existence of myself as a perfect image of the divine creator. In this reflection that is my physical embodiment, I have faith in the supreme guidance of my soul for my balance, my needs, and my opportunities. Outside of myself, there are also perfect images, and nothing can delude my thinking otherwise. Hope affirmation, acknowledging my faith in the omnipresence of my divinity, I hope for realization, awareness, and acknowledgement of the existence of the great I am within myself. Charity affirmation, in understanding faith, in knowing hope, I pledge my actions, my desires, and my thoughts to the performances of myself on the physical planes of the earth, to honor, to love, and to enlighten all that is a reflection of the divine outside myself, so that my perfection is imaged back to my creator. So help me God. So now, this evening, we will begin with tonight's topic. And we are talking about, or I am presenting a few ideas about the art of spiritual healing. Now that's a big topic. And so I'm just going to give you some of my reflections on it. Now, when I was, my basic background professionally is a nurse. And way back when, in the 50s, when I was in nursing school, I was in a school taught by nuns. And that was a very wonderful thing, because right then and there, they said, you don't really do the work of healing for people. It's God's. God is the only source of healing. And, many years later, I'm studying with Michelle, and I hear exactly the same words again. And I thought, wow. Of course, I always based everything off of that, even from the Wayback Machine in the 50s there, when I was there and treated patients pretty much the same way. There was an era then, back in the 50s, where there was much less help and resources available to people. But the kind of community of medical community and the kind of orientation that we had really was still there, helping people to become healed within themselves. and always to pay attention to prayers. That was important for them as well. So the patterns of that we have in our mind and in our emotional field do affect our physical, because the body is the lowest vibratory rate of all that we have within us. We have body, we have mind, we have spirit, we have emotions, and they have a chain of going up in vibratory, or the element, we call them vibratory rates, so that while the physical is the only one that we can see, because it has that lowest end of the spectrum of the vibration, we do own, each person does own those other bodies, and they do influence everything. Everything interacts. And these patterns that come into the body from the mind and from the feeling or the emotional field does work its way into the body. So it's important that we understand about natural alignments that we should be having with the rhythms that the body has. And these don't work very well when they're disturbed by the patterns that are actually vibrationally higher than it. So everything above does affect everything below. So that is one of the sayings that we have at CCWH, and it means many things along the way, but as above, so below. You'll find that on our website even, because that's one of the ways that you can look at as above and the higher vibratory pattern in our mental body and our emotional body, and even in the spirit that we're carrying, does affect everything below it. So it's important when to understand as well, when it comes to the spiritual field, that all cells have consciousness. And it's not the consciousness that we have, because the cell is doing its role, playing its part that it has to, and it's been designed to do. And when all of these cells come together and they create the tissues of the body, when they come together and create organs and all the other elements that we have in our body that presents itself as one being, as one thing, we have to realize that there's lots of harmony has to exist in order to create this physical form. Therefore, when a disease strikes, there's disharmony somewhere. And very, very often, it starts in the mental and emotional bodies, where that disharmony is there, where we have wrong thinking or wrong reactions to things, and it wears on us. This is what science has come up to be understood as stress. Stress, science does know, creates patterns in the body that are not good for it and will eventually make tear it down in one way or another. So the body, of course, can be affected on its own. It doesn't always mean that everything comes from those levels. You certainly can have some overwhelming physical, like a virus coming in and affecting the body that the body isn't prepared for, which we are now very, very familiar with worldwide. So, but negative thinking, that when it's, especially when it's persistent and chronic, does create this disharmony and can put people in jeopardy for their physical body's health. Personality that we have in our world, each of us, comes within we have our own personality, our own unique presence in the world, and that's very important, because God designed each of us specifically for our own soul's benefit, to be a presence in the world for many, many reasons. One of the reasons, of course, if you take it to the personal level, it has to do with the personal evolution of that individual soul, and its presence in the world is important to meet the obstacles or the challenges of the world in such a way that it is going to present, the personality will react in a way that is going to overcome the obstacles and be a higher minded person and responding with the energies more of harmony and love and compatibility rather than the ones that go out and are destructive. So it's important that we understand that that's part of what we're here for. But the personality is, as us as unique individuals, has relationship to other people as well. And in those relationships, we can help people having a good relationship, coming to grips with things that need to be come to grips with. And in that way, as we create the harmony, not only within ourselves for our own health, we can have a harmonic understanding of the world around us with nature and such, and with our relationships, and help others to become to their own balance as well during all of that. All of that is quite within the whole spectrum of spirituality, because spirituality, after all, is our being. This is who we are. We are a presence from higher source. We are higher creative mind that is here temporarily in the physical form for the purpose of evolution, and gaining enough of the understanding that we need in order to make our way back on the pathway within ourselves to God, and to the God who created us, and to God who sent us. So coming up with the understanding of spiritual health and spiritual healing, it's really multifaceted. It has multi-dimensions to it, and all dimensions, if you realize that the presence of God is everywhere, in everything, is actually a spiritual activity when it's producing good. The good in the world is always God in motion. Anything that's a distortion or a destructive thing is really been a creation of a human mind that did not understand the law of God, or it wouldn't be here. We have free will, and that free will is extended to us on every incarnation here, because it is important that we come freely back to God under our own decision to adhere to God's law and to be one with our divine purpose and our divine presence here in the world. Some time back, Michelle did bring in what she called the six-fold plan. And I'm not sure what came in as channeling or what, but I have it written down as these 6 points that she brought in. And we can address each one of these. It's the first point on the plan was to create the desire in self to know self and dedicate the feeling of self for a positive purpose. With kind of what I was just saying, in that you're designed for your existence on the planet. When you understand yourself as a divine, something of the divine, God created you at the level of soul where its perfection exists. And for the evolution of that soul, it has made journeys into this earth in order to expand and to understand God more, even at that level. So our own soul is growing. And once we understand self and our relationship to God within us and what our purpose and our meaning in life is, we then are to set about finding our divine mission for this lifetime. And every person has it, and in a positive direction, something that's going to be generative and life-giving, not only for ourselves, but for other people. The second fold plan, or in the six-fold plan, the second one is maintain balance between the physical, mental, and emotional parts of self, and be willing to seek healing if necessary. Now, healing, from my standpoint of being a nurse and being a minister, is multifaceted. It's healing where you know you can get the help. Many people go out and looking for the physician in the material world out there, go to a physician and say, fix me. And they want their physical body fixed without understanding themselves, knowing how their relationship is of one part of themselves to the other, and they're all of their parts to God. Without knowing that, they're looking always for the like a Band-Aid over whatever their illness is or their disease. But the real true balance will come, and the permanent healing could come to them as they explore within themselves maybe the misformed patterns that they have in their alignment of body, mind, and spirit. And that's important to create that harmony. And then also be willing to seek help. Now, I know people, a lot of people that I have heard over time, as soon as you mention that they might need a counselor, you need professional counseling. That is a true, not just a flip thing that you're saying, but it really is a direction from you. You would do well if you had professional counseling. People very often just get very angry that you think I'm crazy. We don't go to psychiatrists or counselors, and they refuse to go, and they would be greatly helped by them. Of course, there's always the alternative, go for your spiritual counseling. Because one thing that I was able to do as a nurse was to say, look, we're addressing your physical, and you have these multi-levels. I said, let's go, while we're doing the physical at the bottom level of the vibrational pattern, let's go to the top, because everything comes from the top down. And so when you address the top, you're going to your spiritual nature. And if you can do that layering of doing something for your physical and something for your spiritual, the elements within there, truly understanding what you're doing, will help align all of that. So then you have the body, mind, and spirit coming into one in a better way. So when I was able to, I would teach meditation. So because I said that's the finest way. If you want to add something to your health package here of doing something for yourself, it really would be to do meditation. Then the third part of the sixfold plan is to act always with love and respect for self. And that's the other part that's I think today's world is trying to come to grips with, because there are people who misunderstand what self-love is. And we all know at least one person somewhere in our life who have become very, very vain, self-centered, and very, very, very selfish for themselves. Everything had to come to them and be about them. And that's not self-love. And it's just pampering themselves and thinking nothing of others. Self-love really is an appreciation that you are alive, that God has given you life, an appreciation of life. Thank God for your life, no matter what it is, whatever it looks like. Because when you can appreciate, and God sees that you appreciate what God has given you, then other resources can be sent in from spirit, because you are now open to receiving God's grace. Because until then, it's difficult. Even though God has resources that might be circling around you, you must make that connection. And the first connection is gratitude. Gratitude for who you are and your presence on the planet, and being grateful that you have the ability to make your way through life and take that responsibility. So treating self with love would be to take the responsibility that you have for yourself, do what you can to find out who you are and what you're about. Make sure that your physical platform is good. Billions of people have said, better diet, exercise, sleep, recreation. You need to have some fun in your life. You need good relationships. All of that is foundational for the physical in the lowest form, which in itself would bring a lot of joy in the life. But if you have the connection to God, then you have that flow that needs to go from the lowest self to the highest, and from the highest to the lowest, unimpeded. So that would be the going for the perfection of yourself, which is our hope and design, to return to the God consciousness or the Christ consciousness in us. The fourth point is to accept change graciously as self grows in its own new awareness. And patience, I think, is the keynote for that, because it depends on the personality, but there are many people who like to rush into everything and just demand everything to happen right away. When in fact, God designed things so that we have a repeat, wash, rinse, repeat, wash, rinse, repeat. So God sees, oh, okay, you have that lesson down. Don't need that anymore. Can take that off the plate and we'll go on to a new challenge. Let's do something different and we'll move in a different direction. So it's the gracious growth that comes from when let God present to you the things that need to come to you. But what comes to you is the most important thing, is that we all handle it well and with a lighter heart and with a better view and a better attitude toward what is coming in our life. Because when we ask for help in those situations, we do get it. We do receive that help. Then the fifth point is be willing to recognize in another what is present in self and change in self the pattern of discord that you see in the other. Michelle has always said this, and this is true. I think everybody sees it everywhere being presented to us, especially through the media, on television. You see people that are blaming other people for everything, and in their pointing their finger away from themselves, they do not recognize that the only reason that they're so imbalanced, they see all of that outside of themselves, is that there is some element, whether it's a teeny bit or a lot of it, but there's some element of that in them. And the only way we can change what's outside of ourselves is to look and make sure, first of all, the sweep within. And if we find elements of that, those are things that we are given to work on. And that is to work on ourselves. And in that way, when people begin in mass to do that, we're going to change the world. But people have to understand you have to take the personal responsibility and look within. And when you find what you are looking at and something you don't like, you really need to start moving in the direction of making the positive change. Overcoming is the thing. And this is why it's important that we all understand we need help for the most part. Many of us don't see the blind spots that we hold. And it's important that we help each other. And if there aren't knowledgeable and enlightened people around, then we go for the professional help. You go for spiritual counseling from your minister and your priest. You go for the spiritual end of things as well. I would believe that it would be important for some people to do both. Some things can be solved by going to the priest or minister and finding out more about their relationship to God, because that's huge. And that is not going to come to you from your psychiatrist or your psychologist. It's going to come through the spiritual side of things. So for a lot of people, they could use both. But start with the top and work your way into understanding what else you might need in the world. And the sixth point is know that the unity of personality and soul is as one cell in the total humanitarian body and act accordingly. We are here as a single unit to do the work within ourselves, and everyone else is doing that work. And just like the cellular level of the body, those then light souls who become more enlightened can gather together and create a tissue, an organ in the society, in the humanity that is bright and brilliant, so that as the body of humanity grows, you have the beings of light are now infusing throughout all of humanity, all of the light that is coming in, and it will drive out the darker elements, and it will make the whole body of humanity one with God again, as it was meant to be. It's nice to know that these things are there for us in all kinds of ways. And I wanted to read from the Lord Lanto. He's the Chohan of the second ray. which is the ray of wisdom. He was a great being who was incarnated many times in China, especially in its golden age. And in the golden age of China, they were very advanced and very enlightened because of these great beings who came there. And he certainly was comparable to Confucius and was certainly in the realm of the Buddha. And his role now in the heavens, I should, so to speak, is to bring wisdom to humanity. So Lord Lanto has a lovely saying that I was able to find in one of the books by Elizabeth Clare Prophet, the book from the Lords of the Seven Rays. And our perfection, I think is best summed up here. How do we know we've arrived there? So when every eye shall see him as he is, they shall place their fingers upon the body of his substance. They shall feel the symmetry of the spirit that is within him. They shall feel the electronic throb of his heartbeat as the essence of his life pours through the garments he wears and finds their souls with identification with floods their souls with identification with higher realms. Then shall man truly come to know who and what he is. So when all of that can happen for any one individual, that's the plan eventually for the completion, if it's possible whilst we are here in the physical as human beings, to get to that perfected state. Some of these ascended masters certainly have done all of that, have been all of that. We know the description of Jesus. So as we are going through life and we are attending to our spiritual path, we hope to reach that divine place where we are one with God, one with our creative mind, one with the Christ consciousness. Thank you. At this time, we will begin our meditation.
Deep breaths in, deep breaths out. As we continue taking deep breaths in and out, we picture ourselves resting on the ground. It may be a grassy bit of ground or full of rich soil or loam. Perhaps we picture ourselves on tiny pebbles, but take a moment to really be aware of yourself on the ground. As we sit here on the ground, we feel ourselves gradually become heavy, heavier and heavier. We feel those feelings, those sensations of solidity increase until we feel almost immovable. Now we feel almost as though we are sending roots or cords or feelers down into the earth, stretching ourselves down. And through these roots or cords or feelers, we're able to take in some of the strength and the solidity of the earth. And we can send out any negativity or any other energies that are not useful to us at this time. We feel the energy move within us. We feel it as this negative, unwanted, unneeded energy is pushed out through our roots and into the earth. And we know that while we cannot make use of this heavy negative energy at this time, there are other spiritual beings who can. So we calmly and confidently send out any of our unwanted energy, instead taking in the calming support of the earth. At this time, we also feel cleansed, almost as if a wave of water comes over us, completely clearing out and cleansing all of our energy systems, our auras, are cleansed. Our physical bodies are cleansed. Our inner selves are cleansed. And we allow any buildup, any sort of residue to be washed away again, down into the earth, where it can be transmuted safely. Once our grounding and cleansing is complete, we feel a breeze come by us. It may be a very gentle breeze. It may be a stronger wind, but we feel the air moving against us. We feel it breathing new life, new energy into our beings. We welcome the air, the wind, the positivity it brings with it. We allow it to rush into us. We feel its uplifting and energizing qualities. Now invigorated by the air, we feel ourselves opening up to the light of the sun, the light of the heavens, the light of spirit, always above us, always available to us, always shining down on us. We feel ourselves opening up to this light, this strength, this warmth, welcoming it and allowing it to fill us up. We take a moment here to become fully open to spirit, fully welcoming to the healing and guidance of spirit. We also allow the light to form a shield, a circle, a bubble around us of beautiful light. Maybe any color you choose, any thickness, any texture. Take a moment to picture this shield of light. And now we are grounded, we are cleansed. We are open and shielded. We begin a journey to our sacred space. In this space, we are near some sort of tree. And we take a moment to lean against the tree in some way. We may sit near it. We may have our back against the trunk, or perhaps we just lean on it. But we take a moment to get comfortable with this tree. We become aware of the tree and its root systems reaching downward into the ground in a way similar to our own energy bodies. But the tree has its physical roots going down into the ground. We picture these roots now and get a feel for whether they spread out a great distance near the surface, or perhaps delve very deeply into the ground. Are there many tiny pieces, many tiny roots, or just one primary large one? We take a moment to really get a feel for the tree's root systems. As we do this, we find ourselves opening up to any beings, any creatures that might be stopping by the tree's root systems. We may find insects burrowing down, animals of some sort. Perhaps we encounter something else entirely, some more amorphous or spiritual being. But we know whatever we encounter, we are safe. And this being has a message for us. A message about our own roots, our own foundation. We take a moment to welcome this message and receive it. Once we feel this message has been received, we give thanks to the tree, to the being, and we move up to the tree's trunk. We take some time to really notice the trunk of this great tree, its size and girth, the color and texture of the bark. whether we can see any marks on the trunk. We also take note of the shape of this tree's trunk, whether it's very straight and tall or more gnarled, perhaps bent over or twisted in some way. We just take a moment here to be with the trunk of the tree. As we do so, we may become aware of some animal, some insect or bird that is on the tree's trunk. Or perhaps we see only a color or something cloud-like. Perhaps we see a person come up near the tree's trunk. Whoever it is, whatever it is, we take a moment to commune with this being, to see if it offers us any insight. And we welcome this knowledge. Once we feel we have received a message, or even if we have not, we give thanks to this being. We give thanks to the tree. And we bring our awareness up the trunk to the branches. We see how high they reach towards the sky, whether there are just a few reaching tall, perhaps many stretching out, whether they are barren or covered with fruit or flowers or leaves. We take some time to admire the branches of this tree and just take it in. When we think about this tree with its beautiful branches reaching towards the light, and we see if any animals, insects, birds, or anything else stops by with an intuitive message for us. Here in the tree's branches, the message may well be about something about our own development, our own path to spirituality. And we welcome this message and the messenger. Again, giving thanks to the beings present and to the tree itself, we find ourselves looking at the tree as a whole and taking in some of its solid energies. We too are able to reach our roots down towards the earth, to be present in our trunks and stay here on the ground, while at the same time we reach up towards the light and take it in, bringing it down to earth. Giving thanks for this ability, we now send some loving energy towards the tree, towards our own inner plane, towards ourself. We send out energies of groundedness, of security, of light and love and happiness. We send this energy out until we feel it washing back into us, until we feel complete and whole. Our journey complete for now. We find ourselves taking deep breaths as we slowly return to our bodies, feeling once more fully centered, fully present, back in our bodies and homes. Welcome back, and thank you.
You might take a few seconds while you are in this quiet, deep place to send love from your heart to someone who needs your help. I hope you found our website at ccwh.com. And when you go there, you will find the drop-down menu labeled Get Involved, and there's a place there to make a contribution, for which we would be so grateful. And while you're there, you might consider becoming a member. Our affirmations are also found there, as well as a place to request prayers for someone in need.
For 44 years, CCWH has been an amazing place for spiritual learning, growth, and value. We will continue to provide value that will enrich your spiritual journey. Donations big and small makes what we do possible. Please help us help you and others by making a donation today. Click here to visit ccwh.com. Thank you.